So after the absolute devastation of World War I, Germany tried to do something totally new. Build a modern, progressive democracy from the ground up. The rulebook they wrote, the Weimar Constitution, was honestly one of the most advanced of its time. But was it also a blueprint for its own destruction? Let's take a closer look at the plans. Imagine you've got the instruction manual for building a country. It is filled with brilliant, fair, forward-thinking ideas. But what if, hidden deep inside that manual, there was one little rule, a kind of emergency button that could bring the whole thing crashing down? That, right there, is the big question we're digging into. To really get why Germany needed a new blueprint, you have to see just how completely the old house fell apart. By late 1918, after 4 years of a truly brutal war, the Germany that was ruled by an emperor, well, it was completely broken. I mean, think about it. The leader of the country, Kaiser Wilhelm II, was just gone. He'd given up his throne and literally fled the country. The war was over, but Germany was in total chaos. The country was basically a ship without a captain in the middle of a massive storm, and they desperately needed a new plan, and fast. And just look at how fast the old world vanished. It all kicked off with the Navy refusing orders in late October. Less than 2 weeks later, the Kaiser himself was out. 2 days after that, the war was officially over. In just a couple of weeks, Germany's entire system had collapsed, and the race was on to build a new one from the rubble. So the plan for this new Germany was called the Weimar Constitution. The best way to think of it is as the architectural blueprint for a brand new, state-of-the-art democratic house, designed to replace that old, crumbling monarchy. So let's meet the key players in this new design. Okay, first up, you have the president. This person was the head of state, and they were elected directly by the people every 7 years. Now, they weren't involved in the day-to-day stuff, but they had some serious power. Using our house metaphor, the president is like the landowner. They own the whole project, and they've got the crucial job of hiring the project manager. And that project manager, that's the chancellor. The chancellor was the head of government, picked by the president. Their job was to actually run the country, get laws passed, manage all the government ministers, the works. They were the one on the construction site every single day, making sure the house actually gets built. So who did the chancellor have to answer to? That would be the Reichstag. This was the German parliament, the most powerful part of the government, and it was elected by the people every 4 years. So, if the chancellor is the project manager, the Reichstag is like the committee of builders. They have to vote on and approve all the plans before any work can get done. And crucially, they controlled the money. Now, here's the really clever part of this whole system. The architects of the Constitution built in a whole series of checks and balances so that no one person or group could just grab all the power for themselves. You see, the president could hire the chancellor, but the Reichstag had to approve their laws. The Reichstag controlled the money, but the president could dismiss them. And above it all, the people held the ultimate power because they elected both of them. It was like a really sophisticated security system for their new democratic house. On paper, this blueprint was absolutely brilliant. It had some incredibly modern and impressive features that made it one of the most democratic systems in the entire world at the time. Let's check out the main selling points. I mean, this was genuinely groundbreaking stuff. For the first time ever in Germany, women had the right to vote, and the voting age was lowered to 21. That was actually more democratic than Britain was at the time. They also used this system called proportional representation, which basically meant that if a small party got, say, 10% of the vote, they got 10% of the seats in the Reichstag. Every single vote really mattered. This was a system truly built for the people. But, and this is a huge but, for all its brilliant design features, the blueprint had some serious hidden cracks in the foundation, flaws that, when put under pressure, could threaten the entire structure. Remember that great idea, proportional representation, where every vote counted? Well, it had a massive side effect. It meant that dozens of tiny parties won seats in the Reichstag. In the 1920s, there were 29 of them. So here's the problem. No single party could ever win a majority. Just try to imagine building a house with 29 different architects who all have their own conflicting ideas and refuse to agree on anything. The result? Total chaos. Because no one party had a majority, governments had to be formed by several parties teaming up in these really unstable coalitions. And these coalitions were constantly arguing and falling apart. Get this, between 1919 and 1923 alone, Germany had 9 different governments. 9. This constant collapse just made the new democracy look weak and ineffective. and it made people wonder if all this arguing was really worth it. And that weakness, well, that leads us to the most dangerous flaw of all, that secret self-destruct button hidden away in the rulebook. It was called Article 48. This is it, the fatal flaw. Article 48 said that in a national emergency, the president could use their power to pass laws without the Reichstag's approval. Now, it was meant to be a safety valve, for a crisis, but what it really was a backdoor to bypass democracy entirely. It was a rule that allowed one or two people to just ignore the entire committee of builders. So what you've got is a constitution that is fundamentally at war with itself. Its greatest strength, a fair voting system that made every vote count, created its greatest weakness, unstable governments where no one could ever agree. And its other great strength, a system of shared power, was totally undermined by a single article that allowed one person to take all the power. So, where does that leave us? Well, with a masterpiece of democratic design that was, unfortunately, built on very shaky ground. A system that was full of brilliant ideas that, in practice, created instability and left a backdoor wide open for someone to come in and tear the whole thing down. And this is where those cracks in the foundation become a total structural collapse. The constant bickering of these coalition governments made democracy look like a circus. People got exhausted with the instability. They started to lose faith in the very idea of a parliament that couldn't agree on anything. And they began listening to voices that promised strength and order instead of all this debate and compromise. A flawed blueprint, especially one people no longer trust, can easily be taken over by new, and in this case, very unwelcome architects. And that leaves us with a pretty chilling final thought. The Weimar Constitution wasn't destroyed by some outside enemy. It was dismantled from the inside, using the very rules that were written to protect it. It's a powerful reminder that really makes you wonder, is any democracy truly safe if its own rulebook contains the instructions for its own demolition?